Welcome back to another episode of Dueker Sports. I am joined, as always, by the famous Christian Lunday. And today we are playing a childhood game of Would You Rather, NFL style. We have 25 questions, and we ask, Would you rather? And let's get it started before we start laughing because we had some pre-show antics that were quite funny. But we're gonna go ahead and move on into our questions to avoid any of that. What's our first question, Christian?
Would you rather, Dylan, draft an unproven running back in the fourth or a proven running back in the first round?
Okay, for me on this one, I'm not with this anti-running back movement. Quite frankly, I'm not for it. I say draft the proven running back in the first round. Obviously, that depends on team needs, but give me a proven running back in the early rounds all day long. What about you?
As a finance bro, usually our answers to almost every question is it depends. But in this case, I won't be a fence sitter. I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go with draft the proven running back in the first round. There's tons of great running backs that came in the first round. LaDainian Tomlinson, Adrian Peterson, Jonathan Taylor came in the second round, but he should have been drafted by the Chiefs in the first round. The guy was good enough. These guys are proven players. These guys are all world players. Get him in the first round.
Absolutely. That was easy. Let's see how it goes from here on out. What's next?
Would you rather stay 4 days and nights in the dark or live in your NFL stadium for 2 years?
Okay, so this is an interesting question. I'm going to say NFL Stadium for 2 years. So, for those of you who don't know, we're referencing Aaron Rodgers here. He just came out of his darkness retreat. And then Chad Johnson recently said on Fox Sports to Shannon Sharp that he lived in the Bengals Stadium for 2 years to save money. Um, I'm saying the NFL Stadium because I think that you set it up like a house. I don't know why it'd be a bad thing. One, there's no commute to work. That's fantastic. Number two, depending on the stadium, there's some pretty nice stadiums out there. Like, I don't know, you talk about the Atlanta Falcons Stadium. I love their stadium. The new one in Vegas, even the one in Arizona just had the Super Bowl. There's so many cool stadiums. I say NFL Stadium all day because the darkness retreat would be nice for like 8 hours. And then I would be way past it at that point.
I'm going to subvert expectations here. And I'm going to do 4 days and nights in the dark because I'm Batman. I want to be Batman. So, I got to be nocturnal. I got to start training my body to sleep during the day and fight crime at night, and start asking, where are the other drugs going? In my rough voice. So it takes some training to get there. 4 days and nights in the dark.
I wish I could remember. I wish I could remember the Bane quote. Uh,
You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it. I didn't
there you
know that
go.
until I
That's
was a
the truth.
man.
So there you go. Lunday's about the darkness in his Batman
Yeah.
training. Give me the luxury stadium all day. What's next?
Would you rather trade the number one pick overall or keep it?
Okay, so I agree with you. Most of these are going to be an it depends kind of situation. However, it depends on like what you can get for it. Because if the price is right, baby, I'm selling all day long. So you give me, I like it whenever a team can trade the number one overall pick for at least, I would want at least two first round picks in that year's draft and then additional first round picks in the years to come. So I think if you're talking about at minimum of three first round draft picks back, then I say trade it. Otherwise, I'm keeping it.
Yeah, 100% agree. It depends on who's available and your team needs, but as a general rule, I'm in favor of trading back in the draft anyway and get excess capital later on, or even that in that same year. So, yeah, I'm 100% with you there.
I think there's like every so often there's someone that like Peyton Manning or Andrew Luck comes around, and where everyone's sold on that guy. If that's the case, again, I'd keep it. Or even Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, for
Yeah, I'd
sure.
keep it for those guys.
Here's the next one. Would you rather sign Lamar Jackson at $50 million a year, Geno Smith for $39 a year, or Derek Carr for $38 million a year?
So these numbers are their prospective contracts that they're looking at this season. Lamar's pretty much already said he wants a contract that's pretty much the exact same as what Deshaun Watson got, which was 250 guaranteed. Gino, I read a CBS report, I think it was from today or maybe yesterday, saying that he's projected to get a 2-year, $39 million contract. Or Derek Carr, now that's his average, is what they're projecting his average contract to be. It'd probably be closer to about 40 million by probably year two. But okay, given the stipulations surrounding these guys, I say give me Derek Carr on 38 million for probably like a 2 or 3 year deal. I Lamar Jackson's by far the best player on this list. My problem is that he wants a fully guaranteed contract and he runs the ball a lot. You've seen the last 2 years where he hasn't been able to finish the whole season. I think that that's going to become a trend, especially the later he gets into his career. And his entire game is based off his athleticism. He can throw the ball better than what I think some people give him credit for, but he's still not an elite thrower of the football, I wouldn't say. Yeah, give me Derek Carr for 38 million.
Yeah, 100%. Lamar Jackson too expensive. Geno Smith still could be a fluke, maybe not. I don't know. Derek Carr for sure bet at $38 million. His game is going to last him a lot longer than Lamar's, and he's I don't know, with $12 million cheaper. So yeah, give me Derek Carr. Here's the next one. Would you rather, if you were Lamar Jackson, go to these desperate teams? The Saints, Buccaneers, Raiders, Commanders, Panthers, or Jets?
So out of those teams, so it's tough for me because I look at it like I'd rather go to Tampa Bay personally, but for Lamar Jackson, I think the best fit for him would probably be the New York Jets. The New York Jets have a very young team around them. Their offensive line got banged up this year, but they have a solid offensive line. They have a really good ground game. They've got a good receiving core and an elite defense right now. So I say give me the Jets if I'm Lamar Jackson.
So this one I flip flopped. I narrowed down to Buccaneers, Jets. But I'm going to flip flop back to my original team and go with the Buccaneers. I just think the defense is championship caliber. The coaching staff is proven. The weapons, I'm not sure what's going to happen with Mike Evans, but um, if he stays, you still have two solid weapons on the outside, and you got some good slot receivers. Leonard Fournette is a ticky tack, small, soft tissue injury kind of guy, but playoff Lenny is still capable of getting it done. I think if you take Lamar Jackson, put him on the Buccaneers, they're going to be able to compete in the NFC, especially with how weak it is. The Jets are in the AFC. It's going to be really hard to get into the playoffs in the AFC. On the NFC side, you'd be the number one or number two quarterback in the NFC already, behind Jalen Hurts or in front of Jalen Hurts, depending on what you think.
Yeah, I still think, to me, when I look, the more that you just talked about, the more I am convinced I'd choose the Jets if I were him, because just the age of everyone that you just mentioned on the Buccaneers, the reason why that offense is good, each of those guys have been in the league for a long time. So I think the Buccaneers are heading towards a pretty steep downfall, unless if they find they're probably going to need something even better than Lamar Jackson, but they're going to need something nice to come to them in free agency. But I'm riding with the Jets.
Stick to your guns. Another Lamar Jackson one. Pretend you're him. Would you rather go to these wild card teams? The Colts, Lions, Seahawks, Titans, or Vikings?
Yeah, so I read this on the article too. These would be 4 or 5 what they're considering wild card teams or surprise teams in the hunt for Lamar Jackson. This one's very tough for me because I've got it narrowed down to 2 teams, Seahawks or Vikings. I think I'm going to say the Seattle Seahawks because I think Pete Carroll, especially this past year, proved that he is a fantastic coach. What he did with Geno Smith was absolutely phenomenal. Also, you have DK Metcalf there. You have K9 in the backfield, phenomenal rookie year. I think he deserved offensive rookie of the year, but that's neither here nor there. And they also have Tyler Lockett. The Vikings obviously have Justin Jefferson, but outside of that, like the Seahawks built up their offensive line in the draft last year as well. I'm not a big fan of the Vikings offensive line. I'm not a big fan of any of the number two receivers for Minnesota. Dalvin Cook is probably heading towards the at least the back nine of his career, if not further along than that. Uh, and the Vikings have just proven incapable of winning in big games. Now, I would love to play in a dome. I would say that. But if I'm looking for success, I'm going to the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, for me, I'm looking at what kind of person is going to be on my team, and for that reason, I'm going to the Lions. I love their backfield situation. I love their wide receiving core. They've got studs. They re-sign Amon Ra. They pick up his contract. I think he has a fifth-year option on his contract. I'm not sure. I'd have to go look at the details, but Amon Ra St. Brown. You've got Josh Reynolds, I believe. You've got Jameson Williams on that team. Man, you've got Jamal Williams who scored a plethora of touchdowns.
At least
You know, you
14, I forget.
yeah, you've got weapons all over the field. If Jared Goff can succeed in the Lions and have his best season, you dang well know Lamar Jackson, 2019 MVP, can have a great season on that offense. And I love their coach, man. There are not enough kneecaps to bite for me not to like him. The dude is just he's just I don't know. There's something about him. He's weird. He's quirky. He says some crazy things, but the players play for him. They play for this guy. I just think Lamar Jackson, if you want a high flying offense that has the potential to carry the team to the playoffs and potentially make noise, I would pick the Lions.
And we picked I think the two teams that have the most cap space on this list too. So
Well, there you go.
both of those are pros as well.
All right, Dylan, would you rather start an aging veteran quarterback or a lively young rookie?
This one's very tough. Um, it depends on whose lens I'm viewing this. Would you rather? If I'm a team that has everything in place for a Super Bowl push, I'm going to go with a veteran quarterback for 1 year. I'm going to do a rent a quarterback for 1 year, try to get the deal done. But if I'm anyone else, I'm going to go with the young rookie. Hopefully, you get a guy like I guess I'm going through like the perspective of a head coach. I want a guy that I can groom to be my guy. I want a guy that I can make the franchise piece for years to come. And then this is another reason why I love rookie quarterbacks, at least on rookie contracts. You don't have to pay them that much money. And if you look at teams that go to the Super Bowl, I think it's like I forget. I had to look up. It's a ridiculous stat of teams that go to the Super Bowl with quarterbacks on a rookie contract. At least I think it's like at least one team pretty much every year has a quarterback on a rookie contract. We saw it again with Jalen Hurts this year, but it allows you to build a team around them. I'm not a big fan of these contracts that are getting out of hand. You talk about $50 million per year about to become the new average for these star quarterbacks. That's insane. That's way too much money for one guy. So in unique situations, give me the veteran, but for the purpose of this question, give me the young rookie.
Yeah, here's my litmus test. Is aging veteran quarterback Kurt Warner? No. Start the lively young rookie. There's one guy I would trust to lead a team to the Super Bowl, and that's Kurt Warner. And I don't think anyone's done it as well as he has late into his career. Just on a dime, put him in there, and he gets to the Super Bowl, wins MVP, possibly wins the Super Bowl. If it's not Kurt Warner, you put the young guy in.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Here is the next would you rather, Dylan. If you are the Packers, would you rather trade Aaron Rodgers or keep him and compete for championships for the next 2 years?
Trade that man. Trade him right now. And I'm going to tell you why. One, we just talked about this. I don't think the Packers are built for a Super Bowl run right now. They do not have all the pieces in place. In fact, they have very few pieces in place. They have a good defense, far from great. They have a decent offensive line, not great. The receiving core is not that good at all, honestly. Below average receiving core. And then so you're gonna rely. I like their run game though, but I would say they have one of the best running back duos in the league. So I think you could take a different quarterback, pay him significantly less money, because I've been hearing all this talk about Aaron Rodgers is going to be making $59.5 million this year. That's absurd. You can get a guy like a Derek Carr, plug him in. I think the Packers need to focus on the run game to begin with. Focus on improving the offensive line. Focus on your two stud running backs that you have in the backfield. They really have a perfect dual running back setup where they have Aaron Jones who can run it out of the back, or sorry, receive out of the backfield. Then they have a freaking bowling ball power back as well to just bully people. So I'm like, I don't know why this year I feel like they relied, honestly, the last several years, they rely too much on Aaron Rodgers, too much on the passing attack. When you have a running back duo like that, you got to lean on those guys. But save money because you're. I don't think you're going to win a Super Bowl. I said compete for championships in this question. I don't think they win one. I don't think that there's any way in heck, unless if they have massive improvements to their roster, that they're going to win a championship in the next 2 years. There are too many good teams in the league right now for that to be the case. And Rodgers, every year he's on the fence anyways. I would garner to say I almost guarantee you. I don't think he's even officially said that he's coming back yet. It sounds like he is, but this I would venture to say this will be his last year. If it's not, he may play one more year. And I don't think you win a Super Bowl either year. So you need to start building for the future because Jordan Love doesn't look like the answer to me. So I say you trade him. You might be able to get, I would say, at least one first round pick for him at his age currently. But if I'm them, I'm looking at a minimum of one first round pick, multiple seconds, multiple thirds. I think that's very doable for them. So I say trade the man.
Do you want to compete for, I don't know, NFC championships? No, you don't. Trade Aaron Rodgers. That's your ceiling right there. Trade Aaron Rodgers. Start building for the future if you're the Packers. To me, Aaron Rodgers is probably the most squandered talent I think in the NFL I've seen in my lifetime. The I know Packers fans might hate this, but I think the lack of an owner has probably been one of the major issues. I think an owner would have partnered with Aaron Rodgers to help bring in talent or to force the coach's hand and draft first round skill positions on the offensive side of the ball. I think with an owner, a lot of the mishaps we see in this organization would not have happened. And I think Aaron Rodgers' career basically would look entirely different. At this point, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I want out. And if I'm the Packers, I want out. Trade the man.
Yep.
Would you rather, as a restructure or release addition for each of these following players, would you rather restructure or release Ryan Tannehill, Joe Mixon, or Ezekiel Elliott? And Ezekiel Elliott.
Okay. I'm restructuring Ryan Tannehill if they're unable to get another quarterback in free agency this offseason. Malik Willis is absolute trash. I'm going to say it right now. I did not think that he looked good last year's combine. He made some very impressive throws, but he made several horrific throws. I think he is way too big of a project to ever be a franchise quarterback. People are dogging Lamar Jackson still. He is 10 times better at throwing the ball than Malik Willis. Malik Willis will never be a star NFL quarterback. I promise you. Ryan Tannehill, I would like to find someone better suited to run this offense. I think that people are a little bit harsh on him. The receiving core was terrible. Robert Woods. I don't know what they did with him. They wasted him for a year basically. But they don't have any proven receivers right now. Traylon Burks looked good at times. He showed flashes, but they basically played an entire season without a number one receiver. They fed Derrick Henry a ridiculous amount, as they do every year recently, at least. They're very one-dimensional offense. I say restructure Tannehill. Try if you can get him down to a cheaper deal. Bring in another quarterback maybe on a cheaper deal to try to compete with him and put some pressure on him. but build a team around him. No, very few quarterbacks would have succeeded in the non-offense last year. You would have had a top 5 quarterback to be successful on that team a year ago. It just was not a good team on really either side of the ball, but specifically offense, it was terrible. So restructure Tannehill, definitely restructure Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's coming off a career year. I believe he finished top 5 in rushing yards. He had finally the season that everyone's been waiting for Joe Mixon. I don't know that you have a guy ready to go. I don't know. This is back to the anti-running back movement. I feel like everyone's just like, anyone can play that position. It feels like they'll just go get a guy in the 4th round, plug him in, see what happens. Maybe, but I don't know that Joe Mixon, like you have a 50-50 chance of replacing him, but definitely restructure him. I don't think release him. Ezekiel Elliott, this one's tough for me because if he's willing to take a massive pay cut, restructure, I doubt that he'll take enough of a pay cut for it to matter. In that case, you got to cut him. I don't think he's the best run back on that roster is Tony Pollard all day long. So I'm perfectly okay with the Cowboys cutting Zeke, saving a ton of money here, and then building a team around Dak Prescott and Tony Pollard.
Well, stark difference. Ryan Tannehill, release. I think he should have been released a long time ago. I know a plethora of Titans fans that are fed up with him. I don't care if you're in quarterback limbo, you release him. Your team is pretty young. You let all your veterans go, I think. Esteemed veterans, you probably let them try and compete with other teams. You're in rebuilding mode. I say release Ryan Tannehill. It's obvious, even with competent weapons like A.J. Brown, he's still going to get it done. And in the playoffs, I think he was one of the sole reasons why the Titans did not win the AFC Championship against the Chiefs in 2019. I think he's the reason why they just won't get to the Super Bowl. Ryan Tannehill, I would release. Joe Mixon, release. This guy had domestic violence issues at Oklahoma. He's in the news now for another domestic violence issue or assault issue release. Here's what I think about Joe Mixon, a physically talented running back that I think was overhyped. I don't think he's ever been as good as the hype says he is definitely replaceable, and his character level is just not worth it. Release the man. Ezekiel Elliott, restructure. Ezekiel Elliott is not going to find the market that he wants on other teams. There's a reason why he keeps saying he wants to stay in Dallas. He loves Dallas. He knows he won't get a lot of money elsewhere. I also read that he is also willing to restructure. So, yeah, Ezekiel Elliott's not going to be the same back that he was coming out of Ohio State. And yes, Tony Pollard is the clear-cut first RB1 basically on the depth chart. But having someone like Ezekiel Elliott who's willing to get the dirty yards, that's pretty valuable. And you never know. At some point, he might have a season like Jamal Williams. I don't think Jamal Williams is an exceptional running back. I think Jamal Williams gets a lot of touches around the goal line and scores touchdowns because of the proximity of his carries to the touchdown. I think Ezekiel Elliott can be a similar player. And I also think that the reduced money might actually motivate him more. And so that's my opinion. Release, restructure.
So, okay, Joe Mixon, pretty solid case. Ezekiel Elliott, pretty solid case. Ryan Tannehill, I disagree with you severely on because you said, and I quote, he couldn't get it done even with A.J. Brown. I strongly disagree. He had 2 years. In 2019, he had a quarterback rating of 117.5. Pretty sure he led the league that year, maybe. He definitely is either first or second that season. He had 22 touchdowns and 6 picks that year. He missed several games. The next year he comes back. He has a quarterback rating of 106.5. He throws 33 touchdowns to only 7 picks. Then the year that A.J. Brown missed most of the season, he had a quarterback rating of 89.6. They literally had nobody. I don't even remember who. Like, it was like, whatever. I can't even think what that one guy's name is. It starts with an N. That's how bad it was. The dude with a hyphenated name. I can't even think what his name is right now. But the Titans had nobody to throw the ball to. He had an 89.6 quarterback rating. Not great. Not terrible. He also threw almost 4,000 yards that year. He still threw 21 touchdowns and 14 picks. Last year, again, the team, terrible. Look how bad they were when Malik Willis played. Absolutely horrendous. He had a 94.6 quarterback rating, 13 touchdowns, and 6 picks once again. His career quarterback rating is 0.3 lower than Josh Allen's. I think that he gets far too much hate, and people don't realize that he's actually fairly mobile. Definitely earlier in his career, he was way more mobile. He was actually pretty athletic, but he still has a little bit of mobility left in him. I'm not saying this guy is a top 10 quarterback in the league, but I think that he's top 15 for sure. Uh, and I think if you can restructure him down, I don't even know what his current contract is, but if you can structure him down to a cheap contract and bring in someone to compete with him, I don't think you get rid of a guy like Ryan Tannehill. If you do get rid of him, I like Ryan Tannehill over Geno Smith. I'd probably take Ryan Tannehill over Geno Smith if I'm a head coach in this league, because Ryan Tannehill has proven to me time and time again. I'm actually going to look right now, see how many times he's had a quarterback rating. He's had 6 seasons with a quarterback rating of at least 92.8, 92.7. Sorry. The guy has proven multiple times with the Dolphins and with the Titans that he is capable of being a very good quarterback, not necessarily a star one, but put a good team around him, because the Titans and the Dolphins, neither one had good offenses the pretty much the entire time he was there. So I still say restructured Ryan Tannehill, but I can see the other two.
I vehemently disagree. Check out Ryan Tannehill's playoff numbers: 7 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. In 2019, that was his best playoff run. He went 2-1 in the playoffs. He had 5 touchdowns to 1 pick, and his quarterback rating was 98.5. Following year, he went 0-1 with 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 83 quarterback rating. Following year in 2021, 0-1, 1 touchdown, 3 picks, 66.7 quarterback rating. All 3 of those years, he had AJ Brown. Also, he had literally, if not the top running back, a top 5 running back, clearly each of those years. I mean, 2019 was his Pro Bowl season. He had a phenomenal year that year. I'm not taking it away. I don't believe in him. I think it's clear he can't get it done in the playoffs. There's a reason in 2019 they didn't win. They blew a 10-point lead to the Chiefs in an AFC championship game. You can't do that. I know everyone's blowing leads to the Chiefs, but still, you can't do that. You had a 10-point lead. You're going into the fourth quarter. You can't let that happen. I just don't believe in him. I don't think that the Titans really believe in him. Right now, he's just a means to an end until they can find somebody else better than him to replace him. And I think that you just got to bite the bullet, get rid of his contract, find somebody to draft, be in limbo for a year.
He very much reminds me of a Kirk Cousins with a little bit more mobility. And it's a guy who I don't think is going to win you a Super Bowl, but I do think that Ryan Tannehill and Kirk Cousins get far too much hate, because if these guys were putting up these numbers 5 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever, I feel like they'd be considered two of the top quarterbacks in the league. I will say, yeah, I think the 1 year Ryan Tannehill, his best team was in 2019. He threw 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. That was the best team he ever played on, was the 2019 Titans, and he looked pretty solid to me. Put a team around him. Now, if you can go get a guy like, I don't know, if Lamar Jackson wants to go there, okay, but I don't even think Derek Carr. I'm like, restructure Tannehill. Probably have to pay him less money than Derek Carr. I think they're pretty comparable quarterbacks to me. So I don't know. I say Tannehill. I don't know who you're going to get other than him. That's my point.
I
Unless if you're
don't.
getting,
If I'm Titans fans, I'm fed up with him so much I don't care. We tank, get the first round pick the following season. I don't know. It's just at this point I'm past Ryan Tannehill.
if you want to give up a year of your life watching Malik Willis, I do think the Titans are one of the teams that should very much be considering drafting quarterback, because if they stick with Malik Willis, I don't know why they drafted him in the first place. The guy's not good. My favorite quarterbacks in last year's draft, Desmond Ritter. I really liked him. I still like him. And then we never even saw who I had number 1, which is Matt Corral. I still want to see him, or Matt Corral. I always forget how to say his name. But I like him out of Ole Miss. I still want to see what he can do. I thought he was maybe not even the third best quarterback. I literally thought that Bailey Zappi, I had him like competing with him. And Bailey Zappi looked phenomenal. But I thought Bailey Zappi in the combine last year, I thought had the best arm actually of any quarterback that was there. Pure arm talent. But yeah, I don't know. I think you keep Tannehill, you draft another quarterback, and let him sit. And if they make a playoff push, you leave him on the bench. If they're not making a playoff push, you start him the last 7 weeks. That's my take.
Next one. Would you rather continue to build around Dak Prescott or prepare for life without him?
Prepare for life without him. Now, this is another guy I think is getting too much heat. We talk about Dak Prescott turning the ball over. Josh Allen does the same thing. He gets praised. Dak Prescott gets buried for it. Um, Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback. I don't think he's ever been great. He's shown flashes of greatness, but this is a guy. I think the reason why he's been so successful is they've had a top offensive line every year. They had Amari Cooper, who I think is one of the most underrated and undervalued and underappreciated receivers in this league. He's one of the best route runners as well. I've seen him tear an Eagles player's ACL simply by running a perfect double move. Uh, that was their big mistake, is letting him go. I think if they kept him, I think if they had Amari Cooper, everything else stays the same. Amari Cooper is on this team last year. I think they might win the Super Bowl. That's how close they were, and that's how severely they needed a receiver like Amari Cooper to open it up for the rest of the offense. So I think you can compete for Super Bowls. Dak has 2 more years left on his contract. I think you can keep him, but I think you got to find someone to put on the bench behind him. I think you have the luxury of letting a guy sit for at least a whole year, if not 2. But I think you start considering to drafting a quarterback this year because of how good the quarterback class is. Because I don't think they're going to be bad enough, but you'd have to trade up, obviously, to get in that situation. So they're going to have to really think about this. But I think regardless, 3 years from now, Dak Prescott, I severely doubt as a Dallas Cowboy.
I do agree with you here. You got to start preparing for life without him. It was dumb to give him the contract that he wanted at the time, but Jerry Jones capitulated. I understand why, but sometimes you just got to bite the bullet. And Dak Prescott wasn't worth the money at the time. And even though they have a high flying offense since he signed that contract, they've been one of the highest scoring offenses in all of football. I still would not have paid him the money, and I would prepare for life without him. It's going to be very hard to win a Super Bowl with your quarterback making that much money, and it's not a Mahomes deal. He's not going to be on your team for 10 years. You got to prepare for life without him. All right. Would you rather sit your first round quarterback for a year or start him week 1?
Sit him. I like this is again. If you have a team that has everything else good to go, mostly give me a good offensive line, give me a good running back, and give me at least one really good receiver. If you have that in place, you can kind of throw them in. I think it does a lot for a player's confidence to sit for at least half of a season, if not the entire first season, because you got to let them adjust to the NFL, especially because most teams with these types of quarterbacks are not good teams. So I think if you can sit a quarterback, you can adjust him slowly to the speed of the NFL. Get him some, I would say, literally his first year, even if you're sitting him, give him 25% of the reps with the first team in the first year to help him get acclimated to the league, and then let him go gung-ho, hopefully start building a team around him year 2. But I think it does a lot for a player's confidence to sit. Even Jalen, I look at Jalen Hurts, his rookie year getting thrown in, I think the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. And he did pretty well, but he still struggled a little bit. Fortunately, he is one of the most mentally tough dudes I know in the NFL. A lot of guys aren't going to be like that. You're going to see and I don't know what it is. Zach Wilson, I don't know if he can read defense. I think that's his problem. He can't read defense. But you look at so many examples of other quarterbacks who get thrown in, especially for the Jets, too early. Let them sit for a year. I don't know. I think the NFL is definitely moving back towards that. Back in the day, that's how it always was. Nobody really it was rare for a rookie quarterback to be a starter in the league. I think the league is heading back towards that because very few quarterbacks have experienced success. Even Patrick Mahomes said until the final week of his rookie season was the first time he started a game. So, and then he looked ready. He was ready to go season 2 for him. every question mark we had. But now he had the very fantastic luxury of playing one behind Alex Smith, which I think was a great guy for him to sit behind because Patrick Mahomes is everything Alex Smith is not, and vice versa. And he was like, man, it's all about protecting the ball, managing the game. I think he brought up balance. And then he had the benefit of sitting with one of the best offensive coaches of all time in Andy Reid. But yeah, I'm all this one's so easy for me. It's sit the dang quarterback for a year, get them acclimated to the league.
Yeah, you got to let these babies incubate. You got to sit these quarterbacks. It's the best thing to do. Right? Even Peyton Manning, they threw out there. The guy threw so many interceptions, he broke a record. I mean, so many times we've seen rookie quarterbacks come in and just fall flat on their face, and that's because quarterbacking is probably the toughest position in most sports. With how much information you have to process all at once, you not only have to know your job, you have to know everybody else's job. Then you have to know everybody else on the opposing side's job and be able to process that pre-snap. You got about 45 seconds. You got to communicate the play. You got to do all these things. And there are not very many guys that can come right into the league and just do that. So you got to let these people relax, learn the playbook, develop a rapport with some of the younger receivers, and sit them for a year. I'm a big fan. All right, Dylan, this one's great. Would you rather Urban Meyer or Adam Gase?
Adam Gase. I would rather neither, but given the options, Adam Gase. Because call me crazy, I don't want to be treated or talked to with racial slurs. I don't want to be kicked. I can't blame. Never mind. I won't say what I was about to say. Um, I want a coach who's going to fly back with me on the team plane. I want a guy who's at least going to be care and be invested into my success and the team. I think Adam Gase is at least that. I've seen him be phenomenal as an offensive coordinator. Uh, I think he was a horrendously bad head coach, horrendously bad. But give me Adam Gase and his crazy eyes all day long over the massively dysfunctional Urban Meyer who can tear down an entire franchise. Adam Gase may ruin your season. Urban Meyer may ruin your franchise. So give me Adam Gase.
Yeah, I agree. Give me Adam Gase for all the reasons that you said. I don't want to be kicked. I don't want my coach to not not fly home with me on the team plane. That just reeks of selfishness. Not someone I really want to play for. Um, you know, give me Adam Gase. Would you rather be a Browns fan or a Lions fan or Texans fan?
Oof. So the Browns and Lions, I think, are the two most cursed franchises in the NFL history. The Texans look to be heading that way quickly. I don't know. This is just pure speculation. I feel like the Texans are going to be a franchise that gets moved. It's like the writing is all over the wall. In my opinion, I would not be surprised within the next decade to see them playing a new city. I think the team is horrendous. They have nothing to build around. The organization has been dysfunctional for years, from ownership down to obviously the Deshaun Watson situation. They've had little to no success their entire time in the league. They've made the playoffs a few times. They've never really gotten anywhere afterwards. Give me the Detroit Lions because, dang it, at least the Lions are exciting to watch sometimes. Because even whenever they suck, they have a Calvin Johnson. They have a Barry Sanders. They seem like they always have something that you can cheer for. And then especially, obviously, right now, they're by far the best team on this list. But give me the Lions. They're a historic franchise. I think they're the closest to being good. And I think that this team, they've never left their city. I think that the Texans are about to join the Browns as a team that has left the city. Um, but yeah, I think also they just have the most functional organization and the easiest team to cheer for, just in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. The Lions don't employ questionable characters as their quarterbacks. The Texans fire and trade all their great players. The Lions, two words: Dan Campbell. This guy, players want to play for him. He has revived this football team. They compete week in and week out, and they are scrappy. They are talented. I am so excited to see where the Lions are going to be in the next 3 years under Dan Campbell. So I'm with you. out of all three of these teams, I would much rather be a Lions fan at this stage of the game.
I should have said lifelong fan. Would that have changed your opinion?
No. Just for the
Yeah,
I would
no.
out of all the players, I mean, okay, Jim Brown maybe, but Texans don't really have anyone. Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson. I mean, you even had Matthew Stafford. He was thrilling to watch play. These are great players. I don't think the Browns have that many. Would you rather, Dylan, in an attempt to prolong your career, use the TB12 method with avocado ice cream and kale pajamas, or the AR12 method with ayahuasca and 4 nights of darkness?
Who
And
doesn't love ayahuasca and darkness?
you also get weekly hits with Pat McAfee. Let's go.
That's true. That is true. I think Pat McAfee's annoying. I've never done ayahuasca, and I hate the darkness only for other than when I'm sleeping. Give me TB12. I'll try some avocado ice cream. Kale pajamas is a little bit weird. Maybe if I'm in a room by myself. If I'm in a relationship, no. I'm not killing it the mood with kale pajamas. Although there could be some fun role playing involved there. But give me the TB12 method because number one, it works. Number two, they're both questionable, but one is promoting long-term health, the other is very questionable. And maybe the kale pajamas didn't work because he's divorced, but it isn't. With the ayahuasca and darkness isn't working for uh, Aaron Rodgers either. So I don't know. I'm giving me TB12 method all day.
Yeah. I'm going to take the AR12 method. Ayahuasca just sounds like quite the trip. 4 nights of darkness, trying to be, Batman. I can't be Spider Man, so I'll be the next best thing. I'll be Batman. And also, I like Pat McAfee. I'm not worried about role playing, so I'm gonna stick with the AR12 method. I'm gonna go
Role playing is a
ayahuasca and
good time.
darkness.
The
Yeah,
kale pajamas is really what did me in, if I'm being honest. That's what got
guys,
me.
Dylan's talking about Dungeons and Dragons. That's it.
Right, exactly.
All right. Would you rather be a generational talent and Hall of Famer but never win a Super Bowl, or be an average at best starter and win at least 2 Super Bowls?
So we didn't really, I mean, we went over these questions right before the show started. This is the toughest one. This is the toughest one for me. Uh, Still, I wrote down where I was leaning. I'm leaning towards the 2 Super Bowls because number one, you're still gonna be a millionaire. I guess I'm assuming that I'm a quarterback in this situation, but you're still going to be a millionaire. You're going to be in probably obviously a successful organization. You got 2 Super Bowl rings, and then I think even if you don't make the Hall of Fame, which so far every quarterback who has 2 Super Bowl rings has made it, I still will be mentioned among those players. I would assume you'd at least be remembered historically either way. It's tough though because if you're a generational talent, you're going to have tons of money. You're going to be a generational wealth talent as well. Hall of Fame, you're going to be remembered forever. But the reason why I'm leaning the other way is because I just keep thinking like if you're not winning Super Bowls, you're going to be frustrated. You're not going to. I feel like you're never going to be comfortable. You're always going to have that weight on you that you haven't made it to the peak, the pinnacle of the National Football League. The pressure is always going to be there. Like get it done, get it done, get it done. And I feel like that's going to involve a lot more stressful situations. Whereas if you win 2 Super Bowls, you've done something right. Obviously, if you're generational talent, you have two. But I just feel like life would be happier and less stressful with the 2 Super Bowls. Although the money do sound pretty nice for the generational talent.
So you raised a good point. The position matters. If I was a quarterback, I would make a totally different decision than what I'm about to say, but my favorite position is running back, and my favorite player of all time, despite being a Chiefs fan, is LaDainian Tomlinson. He made me fall in love with football. He made me switch from wide receiver to running back. Probably a bad decision for my long-term health, but his play and the beauty that encapsulated LaDainian Tomlinson when he ran the football just basically inflamed my love for the sport. And he was a generational talent and Hall of Famer. I a running back is not judged by Super Bowls. Anybody who says Uh, a running back is better than a different one because one person has a Super Bowl. They don't. That's stupid. Um, I don't take anything away from LaDainian Tomlinson. I don't think he has regrets about his career. I think he has a crap ton of money. I think his name is enshrined with the greatest players of all time. If you have a list of top 5 running backs, he is on that list of all time great running backs. If he's not, you're messed up. Um, I would rather LaDainian Tomlinson's career than an average at best starter and win at least 2 Super Bowls. I want to be LaDainian Tomlinson, a generational Hall of Fame running back with accolades upon accolades and the legendary amounts of stats and MVP to my name. That's what I would rather between the two options if my position I was playing was running back.
Yeah, I'm trying to find my list. I think I have. There it is, right there. Yeah, I have LaDainian Tomlinson number 3 all time as a running back. I couldn't agree with you more. Even Dan Marino, though, like never won a Super Bowl. I feel like quarterbacks are obviously judged a lot more harshly in terms of have
Yep.
they, because like if he wins at least 1 Super Bowl, but for sure 2, his ranking among all time greats skyrockets. He's top 5.
Yep.
I Some people probably still put him there. I don't, because he doesn't have a Super Bowl. Uh, I can't remember. He's definitely not in my top 4. I don't think he's in my top 5 either. I think I have him like 6.
But still, you're right. Like when people talk about the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Dan Marino's name is mentioned, even though he doesn't have a Super Bowl. It is mentioned. He's in the conversation.
He's never mentioned for number 1, but he's an
Right.
afterthought. I feel like he's a guy that's like, yeah, Dan Marino. Like you have to mention him out of respect, but no one's going to seriously consider him for the number 1 spot. Whereas like Tom Brady, Joe Montana, maybe even get some Peyton Mannings thrown in there as well. You start getting those guys mentioned. But I mean, even look at Patrick Mahomes. Without his 2 Super Bowl rings, I don't think that he's a like surefire lock for a Hall of Famer right now. If he hadn't won a Super Bowl yet, I don't think we'd be ranking him nearly as highly as we are. I currently have him number 19 all time on my quarterback list, and he's 27 years old. Without the 2 Super Bowls, he's not there. I promise you that.
Yeah, I have him number 4. But you're right. Without 2 Super Bowls, he's not number 4.
Yeah.
All right, Dylan. Would you rather Lamar Jackson or Tua Tagovailoa?
So this one was actually tougher for me than it was for you. I know we neither one know what the other person's answer is, but we probably both do. We didn't tell each other. But my original thinking was like I think both teams should stay put with the guys they have. That being said, give me Lamar Jackson. Number 1, if Lamar Jackson went and played with this team in Miami right now, oh my gosh, I think they'd win the Super Bowl. Honestly, I think they'd probably win the Super Bowl next year. Imagine having to try to cover Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Mike Gesicki while also trying to stop Lamar Jackson in the run game. That's insane. Lamar Jackson's a former MVP. Tua Tagovailoa played fantastically well this season. However, injuries plays a huge factor for me because he took 2 massive shots this year, actually way more than that, but he suffered 2 extreme injuries. I think that his long-term career is in jeopardy already. Also, this is the first year that I even thought that he was a worthy starting quarterback, and it's because the team is loaded around him. But give me Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, 100%. They're both a little bit injury prone, but Tua's going to forget the playbook at some point if he keeps playing. And I'm kind of concerned. If I'm Tua, I would strongly consider retirement. I would strongly consider it. Um, he is one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time. I think he's very smart. He's a good human. But I'm too concerned about his head. As someone who has sustained head injuries, you know the risks going in when you play the sport, but sometimes you just have to know when to call it quits. And I think if I'm him, I have to consider that. It's got to be in my head. Lamar Jackson, you're gonna have nicks and bruises, and you're gonna have more soft and hard tissue sprains and tears. But you're just so gifted, and you're athletic, and you're tall. I'm not as worried or concerned about those types of hits. So yeah, I would take Lamar Jackson definitely. Would you rather Micah Parsons, Miles Garrett, TJ Watt or Nick Bosa?
So I'm gonna go Nick Bosa here for a few reasons. Number one, of those four players, he is averaging the most sacks per season. Number two, he's the youngest, or I guess he's the second youngest player on the list. Micah Parsons being the youngest. It was tough for me. All four of these guys, like I'd be excited to have. I basically did process elimination. I don't want to hit anyone in the head with a helmet, so I got rid of Myles Garrett immediately. Um, TJ Watt, I heavily considered. Micah Parsons, I heavily considered. But I got to go Nick Bosa just because he's the youngest. He also just had a top three season in terms of quarterback. I think it's hits or hurries. I can't remember. But top three all time. And the dude is the second youngest player on this list. Micah Parsons and TJ Watt are right behind him, but give me Nick Bosa.
Yeah, I'm going 11 from heaven. I'm going Micah Parsons. Miles Garrett does not get enough respect for the type of seasons he's had, especially being on the Browns. He is one of the best pass rushers of all time, I think. But Michael Parsons is going to go down as, it's going to be LTS, Lawrence Taylor esque. I don't know if he'll quite reach that level, but Michael Parsons can do so many things. He can do so many things on the football field on the defensive end. And when he rushes the passer, I don't know that there's anyone better in the league. I really don't. As a personal opinion, I'm going 11 from heaven, but that's no disrespect for these other guys. I would take all of these guys on my team in a heartbeat. And no questions asked. I love all four of these pass rushers. They're incredible players.
I think Micah Parsons. If I had to make a case for someone else, it probably would be him. But yeah, like I agree with you. I would take any of these guys in a heartbeat.
Would you rather Chris Jones, Aaron Donald, or Quinnen Williams?
Chris Jones. I don't like Aaron Donald. I haven't liked him since basically once he started becoming a perennial All Pro player. I think he's become quite a bit of a douche. Probably shouldn't say that on here, but he is extremely arrogant. I don't like the way he behaves. Uh, Also, like I'm assuming we're talking about right now, and because of that, I think he's mulling retirement. Chris Jones had by far the best season of any interior defensive lineman this season. Quinnen Williams, I put him on the list because he's an absolute dog that doesn't get enough respect. He can take over games. That guy is so dang strong. I watched several Jets games this year because I wanted to see what Zach Wilson could do. Quinnen Williams was very exciting player to watch. There's a lot of players that could have put it here for the number 3 D tackle, but I gave it to Quinnen Williams because he had a heck of a year. But Chris Jones, to me, is head and shoulders better than these two other guys right now. Plus, I like Chris Jones as a leader better than Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald has choked guys and threatened to hit them with helmets, and he hit someone with a helmet in a scrimmage practice. And I feel like I don't know the NFL just never. I guess it's because he's one of like the most popular players, but I feel like they don't hold him accountable the way they did Myles Garrett. I get it was a scrimmage, but he's also choked multiple times. He's choked a player in game. I cannot stand Aaron Donald. So give me Chris Jones all day.
Yeah, at this stage of each of their careers, I'm taking Stone Cold Chris Jones. All right, there's a little mic'd up, I guess, a little mic'd up episode basically in the Super Bowl pregame when they're flipping the coin. Brandon Graham's out there talking trash, saying, "You guys brought 5 guys out here. We brought 3. What did It says some choice words, and all Chris Jones says, "God bless you, dude. God bless you, bro." And it's over. Chris Jones being so nice like that, it's bad. God bless any offensive line who comes between Chris Jones and the quarterback. All right. And I'm also a Chiefs fan, homer, so I'm going to take Chris anyway. But, just empirically, this was Pro Football Focus's Defensive Player of the Year this year. That's who they picked. So Chris
Mm-hmm.
Jones had the best year of his career and had a phenomenal year. One of the few D tackles that had 15 and a half sacks, ever, basically. There's not very many D tackles that had sack totals like that. So I'm with you. I'm taking Chris Jones.
I think that a lot of people, well, probably most non-Eagles fans, probably saw that by Brandon Graham being as very disrespectful. That's just the personality that he has. I definitely think he was joking around with them. But if you watch anything to do with the Eagles videos, Brandon Graham is never serious for any amount of time. He is always being obnoxious and joking. Every video I see posted by Philadelphia Eagles, that's just his personality. But yeah, Chris Jones by a mile in this question.
Would you rather Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, or Jamar Chase?
Yes, yes, and yes. Tyreek Hill is the most unguardable receiver in the league, in my opinion. If you're throwing a streak and you can only get one receiver, give me, or if you're throwing it up to go get, I guess on a streak, because otherwise I'd get Tyreek Hill still. But give me Jamar Chase to go up and get a jump ball. Justin Jefferson, though, is the best wide receiver in the National Football League right now. The dude just had 1,800 yards receiving. He's have one of the best starts to an NFL career ever by a wide receiver. The only person even competing with him pretty much at this point was Randy Moss. Jamar Chase could have if he had not missed several games due to injury this past year. But I take Justin Jefferson one, like character wise. I don't like Tyreek Hill. And then I feel like Justin Jefferson. I mean, you saw that catch. I think it was against the Bills. Freaking ridiculous. This guy catches everything. And then I don't know why, but it just now hit me again. The Howie Roseman mistake that I'll never live. I'll never forget. He could have been on the Eagles, guys. He could have been on the freaking Eagles. But instead, we had Jalen Rager for a few seasons, so that's fun. Fun fact, now a teammate of Justin Jefferson on the Vikings. But Justin Jefferson, but these guys are all three. Like, I think they'll all three go to the Hall of Fame. To me, they're probably the top three wide receivers in the league right now. I love all three of their games, but give me Justin Jefferson.
So, man, if we're talking about each in their physical primes, I'm taking Tyreek Hill. But if we're talking just right now, after what happened this past season, I'm with you. I'm taking Justin Jefferson. 1,800 yards is hard to overlook. Tyreek Hill is also the oldest of the three. These other two boys are young. Tyreek Hill's 28. He's gonna be 28 or he's gonna be 29 this coming up season. Do I think Tyreek Hill is gonna fall off athletically? No, I actually think he's gonna be a viable receiving option well into his 30s. I think it's gonna be sort of a Darrell Green situation where the dude's 40 and still running down people. I don't think he'll play till his 40, but I do think his speed's gonna be there for a long time. His falling off end of his prime speed is going to be players in their primes for other guys. So Tyreek Hill is going to be around for a long time, but I'm going to take Justin Jefferson. Right out of college, he was one of the best route runners of all time. Everyone ranted and raved about how good his route running was. His rookie year was phenomenal, and then he follows it up with just incredible performances. I mean, 1,800 yards this year. He almost had the triple crown, similar to Cooper Kupp last year. I think Cooper Kupp had one of the best, maybe the best season for a wide receiver last year. Justin Jefferson's like, I'm several years younger than you, and I'm going to almost emulate your season. So Justin Jefferson, I think I would rather have after this year.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing about Tyreek Hill speed. I'm like, at 35, he may fall to a 4.5 40. That's where most people start at. So,
Yeah. Would you rather Sauce Gardner, Jalen Ramsey, or Patrick Surtain II?
I know the answer, but I'm gonna pause for a little bit to give them at least a little bit of respect. But Sauce Gardner, another guy cannot stand in the league. Jalen Ramsey runs his mouth nonstop. Patrick Surtain II is a phenomenal corner. He's done just like his dad before him. He's one of the best corners in the league. I think he will be for a long time. But Sauce Gardner, year number one, was rated by Pro Football Focus as the number one corner in the National Football League. He made the All-Pro team. He was one of the best lockdown corners in the entire league. The dude does not give up touchdowns. He is, I don't know, he's just, I think we may be looking at another possible like Darrell Revis type situation in New York. That's kind of who he reminds me of, except for even more athletic. Sauce Gardner, I think, could be like one of the best corners of all. Go down as one of the best corners of all time.
I think there is one wrong answer on this list, and that's Jalen Ramsey. But I think whichever guy you pick, I don't think there's a wrong answer here. And I'm actually going to go with Patrick Surtain. I his dad played for the Chiefs briefly. Loved his dad, but Patrick Surtain the second. I think his athleticism. I think he's more athletic than Sauce Gardner. He's faster. He's just as strong. I don't remember their heights, but the athletic matrix score, Patrick Surtain surpassed Sauce Gardner, and Patrick's one of the most athletic corners that came out of the draft. Um, I think in time, I think Patrick Surtain will be looked at as the best corner in football. That doesn't take anything away from Sauce Gardner. He clearly was the best corner this year. But that's scary that Patrick Surtain is this good, and I don't think has put it together yet in his mind. I think Sauce Gardner came in with some football genius, and I don't think Patrick Surtain is mentally that level yet. I think he'll get there, and once he gets there, I mean, the dude is huge. He's big. He's fast. He's got 4.32 speed. Um, he's got ball skills. He's on a defense that's gonna really, it's gonna really shine on his talents. So I'm terrified to play Patrick Surtain for the next several years in the AFC West. I'm not looking forward to it, and I just think his athleticism is so killer. He scares me the most out of these three corners. So I'm picking Patrick Surtain.
Yeah, I don't think any of them are a wrong answer. I think Jalen Ramsey is one of the best physical corners of all time. We talk about a guy that's going to jam you at the line of scrimmage every single time, get in your face. He's a lockdown corner. He's great at getting interceptions. I think he's one of the best corners of this generation. And I think he'll be remembered as such. I think character wise is why I wouldn't get him. But yeah, everything you said about Patrick Surtain, I could not agree with more. He like whenever the Broncos, I watched. I'll give a shout out. I haven't given a shout out for anyone new in a while. My friend Tyler Pitcock came over to my house to watch that draft. And when the Broncos drafted him, he's been busy starting a family and working. He didn't have a lot of analysis for the young guys. So he's like, what do you think of that pick? And I was like, dude, this dude's dad was a stud for a long time. And this guy might be even better. So I was like, dude, they made a solid pick. Like, he was by far the best player available. He played for Alabama, if I'm not mistaken, in college. Isn't that right?
Yep.
I believe he played for Alabama. Yeah, athletic freak, and he has all of the traits of an elite corner. Absolute stud. So yeah, I think they're all neck and neck. Jalen Ramsey's by far older than the other two as well.
Jalen Ramsey, I would love on my team a few years ago when he's cheaper. I think he's towards the end of his prime. I've watched some film. He gives up a lot of plays that he didn't used to, and I do think his athleticism is starting to Father Time's creeping up on him. I don't think Jalen Ramsey is a bad answer, period. But I think out of these three guys, he's the wrong answer. He's too expensive, and he's not athletically quite where he used to be. And I think these other two guys are showing you the reason why they are ranked ahead of him this year in Pro Football Focus's cornerback grades.
Final 5 questions.
Final five. Let's go. Here you go. Would you rather prime Michael Vick or Lamar Jackson?
So I loved me some Michael Vick before prison for sure. After prison, not so much as a person, but I loved watching him play, especially in Philadelphia. But give me Lamar Jackson because I think Lamar Jackson is actually an even better runner than Michael Vick, which is saying I think they're the only two on the list, basically, for me. There's a huge gap. There's a lot of guys that maybe Cam Newton starts getting brought up, especially in terms of touchdowns. He's the all-time leader in rushing touchdowns for a quarterback. But Lamar Jackson and Michael Vick are the two best rushing quarterbacks of all time by a pretty significant margin. I think Lamar is actually a slightly better runner. I think he's definitely better. He's more agile. He's able to shake defenders a little bit better. He never really takes any hard hits. Very few times have I seen him get hit flush. Also, I think he's a little bit better of a passer. Actually, probably a fair amount better of a passer than Michael Vick was. Basically what I did is I went back and kind of looked at like them at their peaks. Michael Vick had one season of 102 quarterback rating, which was his career high. And I forget what Lamar Jackson's was, but I think it was like 113 was his high in quarterback rating. But I think that his accuracy is a lot better than Michael Vick's. Both of them face similar defensive fronts because they're such a threat to run the ball. They both get the benefit of having one-on-one coverage down the field a lot. I think Lamar Jackson's a better thrower and a slightly better runner. So, uh, nostalgia aside, give me Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I think Michael Vick is one of the most explosive runners of all time, and he's got a rocket arm. But I'm going to take Lamar Jackson. I don't think Lamar Jackson has quite that strong of an arm, but I think he's overall a better passer. And I think he's more elusive while being almost as fast, if not as fast. Lamar Jackson, I think I've said this before, is probably one of the most beautiful athletes to watch on the football field. Seeing it in person, seeing how elusive he is, he doesn't lose speed, it feels like, when you just watch him and he's juking somebody out. He doesn't lose speed. It's incredible. It's crazy. And he just makes grown professional 5-star athletes at the peak of their powers look like children. So I'm taking Lamar Jackson on this one.
I once one of my hottest takes ever, and I'm still sticking with it. I think Lamar Jackson is the most elusive runner since Barry Sanders. I still think that. I think Marshall Falk has a case, but I still think Lamar Jackson, out of anyone, not just quarterbacks, obviously, the most elusive runner since Barry Sanders. You can't get a clean hit on the guy. He makes them look like children.
For the sake of this conversation, I'll let that one slide for now. All right, Dylan, would you rather peak Brady or peak Mahomes?
Peak Brady, give me the GOAT, the best of all time, because Peak Brady is reeling off a Super Bowl victory basically every other year for 16 years. That's Peak Brady to me. Statistically, also very comparable to Patrick Mahomes. Peak Brady, whenever he had Randy Moss. So Patrick Mahomes had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelsey for every year until this one season, and he still has one of the best receivers of all time in Travis Kelsey. So we've never seen Mahomes without one. We only saw Brady with one for a few years, and look what he did. He put up numbers very comparable to what Patrick Mahomes is doing right now. Both of them I think, will go down as the best quarterbacks of the generation by far. I don't think Mahomes will ever surpass Brady. I think for me, in my mind, he'd have to continue to play at the same level. Like statistically, he needs to be better than Tom Brady because he plays in an easier era. And then I think he needs to win Super Bowls. He's got to get at least 4 or 5 for me to consider him on Brady's level. That being said, I think easily Mahomes could go down as will probably, and I think he will go down as a top 3 quarterback of all time, if not number 2, because I do think that his career will continue down his path. This year really won me over with Patrick Mahomes. I've always been one of his toughest critics. I've always given him the respect of being one of the top quarterbacks in the league. The show before the season even began, I had him as the number 2 quarterback, only behind Aaron Rodgers, coming off of back-to-back MVPs. I always give the man his flowers, but I do think Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback ever to play the game of football. Physically, Patrick Mahomes is better in every single capacity. But no one, I think, understands the game better than Tom Brady. Tom Brady has that killer instinct. You can put the man down 28-3. He's going to get pissed, but there's always that meme where it's like, if you see one of these faces, you better run. And it shows Michael Jordan, it shows LeBron James, and it shows Tom Brady all getting pissed off. I can't remember which Michael Jordan. Pick one. But LeBron, I think, was after Klay Thompson made a comment about him, and he had that look on his face with the sunglasses and just took over the series from there on out. Had possibly the best series I've ever seen. Well, no, definitely the best series I've ever seen watched live, but maybe the best series of all time in the NBA Finals. And then Tom Brady, like that guy is a stone cold killer. Mentally, I think he has the best understanding of football of all time, even better than Peyton Manning. And I think Peyton Manning is number 2, and I think they're in a league of their own right now. Patrick Mahomes may get there, but physically speaking, Patrick Mahomes is the most talented player of all time, physically, quarterback of all time, physically. But still give me peak Brady because until I see Mahomes win a Super Bowl every other year for 18 or 16 years, and until I see him do it with Brady did it at times with no elite receivers. He would take guys like Julian Edelman and Wes Welker and make them look like elite receivers. But outside of New England and Tom Brady, we never got to see Julian Edelman. But Wes Welker was mediocre at best anywhere else that he played. Brady made them into stars. Mahomes started his career, fortunately for him, with two of the top receivers in the league at that time and probably two Hall of Famers. But give me peak Brady, no disrespect to Mahomes, though.
Yeah, I'm going to take peak Mahomes. Shocker there. Brady's perhaps statistically best season was 2007 when he threw for 50 touchdowns and broke the record at the time before Peyton Manning broke it later. But he had 4,800 yards passing, 50 touchdowns, went on an incredible run. Patrick Mahomes' first full year as a starter couldn't barely read defenses, throws for 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, and walks off the field in the AFC Championship with the lead. Never sees the field again, but he walked off the field against Patrick Mahomes or against Tom Brady with the lead. And I don't even think that was peak Mahomes. I think this year's peak Mahomes, and I think his season this year, I would stack up against any Tom Brady season. He won the MVP. He won Super Bowl MVP. He won the Super Bowl championship. That is extremely rare. He also broke the streak that Tom Brady actually started with beating Kurt Warner, which is beating MVPs and preventing them from winning the Super Bowl the year they won. Tom Brady then went on to be part of that streak, and it took Patrick Mahomes in one of the greatest quarterback seasons of all time to break that streak. I would take peak Mahomes based on talent, based on empirical numbers, and right now on pace based on chips too. I think Patrick Mahomes has had the greatest start to a career of all time. I don't think he had to be carried by defenses in the beginning parts of his career. He's actually carried crappy defenses basically his whole time at Kansas City, except for the late 2019 season when they started to put it together. But he's never had a top 10 defense. Tom Brady has had several top 10 defenses. And I think coming away with two chips at the same pace that Tom Brady was playing, Tom Brady's got, I think, one more chip. No, I think he's got one more chip by the age of 27. But Patrick Mahomes owns every other statistical category, and I think this year was peak Mahomes, and I would take it over peak Brady. The next question, Dylan, this one's fun. Would you rather extra cap space or extra first round picks?
So, other than talking about like careers and like, would you rather have the two Super Bowls or the generational talent? This to me was probably the second hardest question. I'm going to say cap space because it just allows a lot more freedom. First round picks are a gamble. They're an educated gamble. But I think with extra cap space, especially if you're talking a lot of extra cap space, I obviously both of these things are phenomenal, but give me the freedom to go out. You can sign basically whoever you want. I like that luxury. Obviously, it depends on who's in the draft class and who's in free agency. But give me the extra cap space because I think it comes with a greater peace of mind and it allows you more freedom within the roster. Because you can only have so many first round picks, but you can have millions in cap space. So give me cap space.
Oh, that's tough, man. I think I would take the extra first round picks, to be honest. I like building through the draft, and if you can hit on your draft picks, your team's going to be good for a good long while. And if you have extra first round picks, I mean, if you look at the Eagles, I think the past two drafts they've had several first round picks, and look where it got them this year. It got them to the Super Bowl, and I think they'll have these guys for a long time. Plus, they can make trades with cap space. You can sign players for extra first round picks. You can make trades for other players. Plus, still have draft capital to keep your team young. I think I would take extra first round picks.
So the Eagles also have extra first round picks this year too. So I'm super excited.
Well, crap. There you go. There's I feel like 10 points to Gryffindor. All right, Dylan. Second to last question. Would you rather Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, or Jalen Hurts?
This question is very, very taxing for me because number one, let me tell you something, folks. Let me eliminate one of these guys right now. I'm going to eliminate Josh Allen right off the bat because Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen actually have the exact same quarterback rating over the course of their careers. They each have a 92.2 rating. I feel like Jalen Hurts is a better leader, although Josh Allen might be one of my favorite people in the league. He's one of the most kind individuals for dang sure. He does a lot for charity. I love him as a person. I love his story. However, Jalen Hurts might be the best leader for me in the National Football League at any position. Mentally tough, doesn't turn the ball over, confident, like just everything you can ask for in a player. That's what he is, and he gets the rest of the team to believe. And I think all three of these guys do that. But for me, it's between Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts. It's tough for me. I'm going to say Joe Burrow, but I need to see Joe Burrow without the Bengals receiving core to see what he does, because to me, if you swap and you put Jalen Hurts on the Bengals, I think he wins MVP this year and probably several times because of his ability to also run the ball. He had a higher quarterback rating than Joe Burrow had this year. The first time he has anything even close to a comparable receiving core, and he outperformed Joe Burrow. Um, so for me, they're pretty actually close. Jalen Hurts won my heart this season. I am an Eagles fan, but I've always loved Jalen Hurts. I loved him in college. I loved ever since he got benched in the championship. I've been a Jalen Hurts fan because I thought he handled it with amazing class. Celebrated the championship. Did not make it about himself. After the season was over, they were like, "We're going to go with Tua." He's like, "Okay, I would like to transfer." Rightfully so. He goes on and almost won the whole. He went to the college football playoff and almost won the Heisman as well. But so to me, Jalen Hurts is a hair behind Joe Burrow. But Joe Burrow right now statistically is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's probably, I might even put him at number 2 best quarterback in the league right now, only behind Patrick Mahomes. That being said, you look at a guy who he's spoiled. He's spoiled rotten playing for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. He even had Hayden Hurst this season. They did a lot to improve his offensive line, but I don't know. Like, I would love to see Jalen Hurts. We saw him on a pretty good team this year, but if the roles were reversed, I think Jalen Hurts would have more success on the Bengals, possibly even than he did with the Eagles. But you do have to take into consideration how good the offensive line was in Philadelphia. So, give me Joe Burrow, but I'm talking hairs, man.
Yeah, I'm taking Joe Burrow on my quarterbacks list. Um, Joe Burrow is the second best quarterback in football, and I'm gonna stick to that. I think he's got this anticipation thing that's Kurt Warner esque. His moxie, the way he throws the football, it's very much like Tom Brady to me. He's mobile. There's just so many things about him that I think make him the second best quarterback in football. I also think if you switched the two quarterbacks, Joe Burrow has a better offensive line and almost as good of weapons on the outside that he has in the Bengals. It's possible that the Eagles with Joe Burrow win the Super Bowl. I just think Joe Burrow is just one of the best quarterbacks in football. I think he's going to be right up there every year for the foreseeable future. And I think as long as the Bengals have him as their quarterback, it's going to be very hard not to consider them Super Bowl contenders. So, last question, Dylan. Would
Right.
you rather Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence?
I had to look this one up beforehand, but I'm going to have to say Justin Herbert. My favorite quarterbacks in the league are Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and Justin Herbert in that order. Justin Herbert, I think, is one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. I think that he was a product of team injuries this year, and he was banged up severely himself. He had fractured ribs. I can't remember what else. He had other injuries. I think a groin injury or something. I can't remember. But he suffered severe injuries, especially for a starting quarterback. But Trevor, they're both. I would love to have either of them. I think they're two of the best young quarterbacks. I think Justin Herbert to me is probably, I don't know. Yeah, I'd say they're both like fringe top 5 quarterbacks in the league right now. They're both fantastic. I think Justin Herbert has shown me a little bit more so far in his career. I like his character. I like his, I don't know, I wouldn't know necessarily that I would say leadership. I think they're pretty equal in terms of leadership. I don't know. There's just something about Justin Herbert, his mobility. I don't know. Honestly, it's splitting hairs again with these two guys. I think they're both phenomenal. They're honestly very comparable quarterbacks in terms of mobility, in terms of stature, in terms of playing style. But I like Justin Herbert just a little bit better. I like his ability to throw the ball from the pocket. I think is probably better even than Trevor Lawrence. I think he's a little bit more dangerous in the when scrambling as well. So I think I give him a slight advantage in both categories. And Justin Herbert is another guy that I want to see with better talent around him that can actually stay healthy. But Trevor Lawrence is on his way, no doubt about it.
This was really hard. I know when we talked about our top 5 quarterbacks in the league, I don't think I even mentioned Justin Herbert, which after the episode I kind of regretted because he's that dude. He's super smart. He can read defenses. He's got a howitzer of an arm. And you're right. He plays banged up. He's a tough kid, and his team is always injured. So it's very hard for us to even gauge how good the Chargers are because it's hard for their team to stay healthy. I think they need new team doctors. We saw they did the Tyrod Taylor, which threw Justin Herbert into the fray immediately 5 minutes before the game. He came out, took the Chiefs to overtime. Um, I think that I would like to see the Chargers with a more experienced and better coaching staff because I actually think the coaching staff isn't really doing Justin favors. But here's the problem. I'm picking Trevor Lawrence barely, just like you're splitting hairs. I think we're splitting hairs too. Trevor Lawrence beat Justin Herbert throwing 4 interceptions in the same game. Came back, threw 4 touchdowns, and beat the Chargers. You can't collapse like that if you're Justin Herbert and you're that generational of a talent, which I believe he is. Trevor Lawrence, I think, has a case for being the greatest college football player of all time. He knows how to win. He's won on the college scale. He comes in. He's never lost on a Saturday, and that reared its ugly head against the Chargers again. He threw 4 picks, but turned it around and beat the Chargers. I just think that's on Justin Herbert's resume. At legacy-wise, I'm not going to hold it against him forever. But as of right now, at this moment, Trevor Lawrence has showed me a little bit more in terms of winning and coming back from deficits than Justin Herbert has. I know Justin Herbert's moment will come. My buddy Mark Gillespie is a huge Broncos fan, so I feel bad for him. It's going to be a really tough season for AFC West, I think, coming up. Russell Wilson was a huge disappointment this year. I don't think he'll be that way again next year. But I do think you're going to be running into buzzsaws in both Justin Herbert, who's going to be a man out to prove some stuff, and then you're going to run into Patrick Mahomes, the 2-time Super Bowl MVP, two-time champion. It's going to be a hard time for Broncos fans. And one reason why is because Justin Herbert is in the same division, and I think he's going to be playing out of his mind. But right now, Trevor Lawrence has impressed me with his winning and his ability to throw the football. And I think, honestly, having a little bit less quality weapons. I mean, Justin Herbert, when his guys are healthy, he's got Mike Williams and he's got Keenan Allen. Those are incredible wide receivers. Trevor Lawrence's best wide receiver is Christian Kirk. Christian got paid a crap ton of money. I don't know if he quite deserved it, but Christian played his butt off this year. But I think Trevor Lawrence is doing it with a little bit less weapons when they're all healthy. So I'm going to pick Trevor Lawrence for now.
Yeah, I think number one, I do think that Justin Herbert's team was outmanned and outcoached in that game as well, especially in the second half. Also, you kept saying when they're healthy, which they're never healthy, seemingly at the same time, talking about Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Trevor Lawrence had a plethora of weapons this year. That's what helped him. He had Christian Kirk. He had Zay Jones. He had Marvin Jones. He had Evan Ingram. He had elite running back play. Justin Herbert did not get the benefit of having that many weapons at his disposal. He does have Austin Eckler, who's pretty phenomenal, but the receivers cannot stay healthy ever, it seems, especially at the same time. They play like 3 to 4 games a year, I feel like, at the same time. Yeah, I think you talk about these guys. There's like a few to me, actually, the number of teams that have quarterbacks who are surefire franchise quarterbacks, I think are actually starting to dwindle for me at this point. I think you're talking about, I don't know, I'm just off the top of my head, there's maybe like 8. And we mentioned 3 of them on the page before. We're mentioning two of them right now. So there's not that many, and I think both these teams are very blessed to have guys like this running the organization because they're stand-up guys in terms of character, and they're two of the best to do it on the football field as well. So that is all we have for today's episode of Dueker Sports and Would You Rather NFL Style. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. We will be back later in the week. As always, thank you for watching.